Hello, as we go one-on-one with a Georgia Bulldog great and Olympic gold medalist, my buddy Gunnar Bentz. And Gunnar, appreciate you spending some time with us. I know it's a crazy time for you right now with the Olympics being postponed for a year. What's going on in the world of Gunnar?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff. Well, to be honest, I think we're pretty lucky. We actually have a pool we're able to train in right there in Watkinsville. So we're swimming every single day. And I consider myself lucky because most teams aren't able to do that. A lot of people, a lot of Olympians, past and future, aren't able to swim right now, So it's lucky that we have this system of people, connections that we have that are able to keep us training and keep us in the water. It is such a weird time. There's so much uncertainty. We've got a year to go now. Actually, I believe the U.S. Olympic trials for swimming would have been last week. So it's a little bit, weird to think about. We could have had some fresh Georgia Olympians at this time. But life goes on, and, we're just going to use this and make us stronger for next year. I think having another year of training under our belt really can't hurt us, So it's just got to roll with the punches a little bit.
I love that positivity, Gunnar. It'd be easy for somebody to go into the everlasting no, but I think in times like this, when times are tough, it's very important for us to count our blessings. And I'm sure whether you're an athlete, a coach, an athletic trainer, or an old dinosaur radio man like me, I know when we get back to it, we're going to savor every opportunity.
That's right. And, I've been telling myself this one quote. I've really been repeating it to myself every single day, and it's by the great Thomas Carlyle. It's work while it is still called today, for soon the night comes in which no man can work. And, that just really resonated with me because it's sort of anomalous to my swim career. I'm not going to be able to do this for much longer. The foreseeable future, probably about a year left of my swim career, and then it becomes a proverbial night, right? So I'm going to just treat it every day like it's my last and just keep working hard, and hopefully it'll come to fruition down the road.
Gunnar, I think that's very prophetic, and I've always had such admiration for swimmers. You guys have the ultimate dedication. You're probably bordered on crazy a little bit too.
I don't know if it's bordered. I think we've crossed that line for sure.
Getting up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning and training, and then when you get to college, you go to class, you come back and practice again in the afternoon. What got you into it? When did you realize you had a chance to be really, really good, and when did you start?
Yeah, well, I'll preface with this. I started swimming for my summer league neighborhood pool when I was 3. So I was swimming with the big kids, the 6-year-olds. So been doing it a long time. Started swimming year round at Dynamo when I was 10 or 11. And then I think really when I sort of, realized that I had, Olympic capabilities was when I got here at Georgia. Just having the coaching staff and the teammates that I've had, I've just been so lucky. You look at someone like Coach Jack, who's been here since the 1970s. What a legend in our sport, one of the most well-known coaches in the world. And to have him in my backyard, I grew up in Atlanta, so it's just an hour away. Who would have thought Athens, Georgia would be such a international swimming hub, but it truly is, and that G is certainly represented worldwide. And that's such a special thing to have that. And so I really owe it all to those coaches, those teammates, friends, family that I've had. And it's just been such an incredible experience. And I'm going on my 6th year here in Athens and haven't gotten tired of it yet.
Well, Athens, Georgia, it'll keep you young and make you feel old all at once. But Gunnar, for me, the 80s was the decade I grew up in. I was born when our good friend, the aforementioned, the great Jack Bauer, was swimming here. But so for me, early 80s, Georgia was just on top. It was the greatest thing in the world. The 84 Olympics was really my first major Olympic memory. And so you have all these dreams when you're a kid. And for you, I'm sure you do appreciate it because you're such a great guy, such a great young man. But how many kids would dream of growing up to be an All-American for the Georgia Bulldogs and to win an Olympic gold medal? You're not even 25 yet, and you have literally lived the dream.
Yeah, well, it's crazy, Jeff. I think back to we would do sort of like national select camps and camps growing up. USA Swimming puts on to sort of have the next generation coming up. and we'd go, and, you know, they'd have people come in and talk to us and say, you know, statistics tells us that at least 2 or 3 of y'all in this room will be Olympians. And I never would have thought it was going to be me. You know, I was always the kid bringing up the back of the pack, you know, at practice, to be honest, in those days. But so, I mean, it's crazy. And I think it's just, it really shows, you know, hard work and dedication is going to work in the long run.
Gunnar, your career at Georgia was simply amazing. A 20-time All-American, 16-time first-team All-America, of course, All-SEC, the highest of national honors. College is an interesting thing for athletes. I'm sure when you first get there, you start going through the grind and all, and it's tough, but it's the fastest 4 years in the world, isn't it, for an athlete? It
sure is. 4 or 5. I took 4.5, but yeah, I mean, it's so incredible. And, you know, college swimming is so different than Olympic swimming. It's just such a weird thing, swimming, our sport is. But our coaches, you know, Harvey Humphreys was famous for always saying, when you are doing well in the classroom, you're going to be doing well in the pool, right? So they always thought academics were first, and that was so important to them. And it really, that reigns true for sure for me too. You know, when I was studying, I was getting everything right outside the pool. Things would go right in the pool for me, you know? So I think it just really speaks to excellence in all that we do here at Georgia. And I just think that's so important to our coaches, Harvey and Jack. And I just think that that's such a cool thing, because I think a lot of teams aren't like that. You know, a lot of coaches, they think swimming's what it's all about, or, you know, football coaches may think that football is what it's all about, or you know, whatever. But here at Georgia, I think it's all about the, you know, all-encompassing, you know, because Georgia's it's such a great school. You know, there's so many things you can be involved in, and as well as athletics. So really lucky to have gone here, and it's just truly special.
It really is. The complete man, certainly, here at the University of Georgia. Gunnar, you started, as you just said, at age 3. Swimming is one of those sports where athletes can really peak early. I think particularly on the women's side, gymnastics can certainly be like that. Diving can be like that. I know burnout is a frequent problem for very successful young swimmers. How did you manage to avoid that? Was it that complete person mentality that helped you do that?
Yeah, I mean, being involved in other things, you know, I volunteered my time a lot. You know, the once in a blue moon, you know, short weekend vacation, although Jack may not have been super stoked about those, but, you know, you got to do what you can to keep your, you know, your mentals in check. And honestly, I think this quarantine has been sort of a good way for athletes to decompress and use this time to sort of remember what it is that makes them love the sport, and remember why they miss it, you know, during this time. And I think it's actually been really helpful. You know, the athletes that have found a way to stay in shape, they may not be in the water, but if they're in shape and using this time to help themselves mentally, I think you're really going to see that down the road, and especially next summer. And I think especially here in Athens, we've done a really good job of that.
Swimming is the best exercise in the world. And when I was a kid, I'd be out swimming all day, and you could just eat and eat and eat. When you're at the height of your training, Gunnar, give me a calorie count for the day. What are you having for breakfast, for that second breakfast? What are you having for lunch, for dinner, for the afternoon snack? How much are you putting away?
I've never actually counted my calories, but I know they did a thing on Michael Phelps before probably the 2012 Olympics, and I think he was taking in like 12,000 calories a day. And I'm sure I'm hitting 10 on some days on those heavy days. I mean, it's just like, you know, what you can get in. It's like, honestly, we're burning so many calories that the biggest issue is getting enough. And Jack's a little bit to thank for that too. You know, he's grinding us, and I mean, it's great. But sometimes it's like you can only eat so many hamburgers. But, you know, I think I'll look forward to my food bill going down once I'm done swimming for sure.
Gunnar, let's talk about the Olympics experience for you and for so many kids growing up. I mean, it's the ultimate to win a gold medal, but especially, I think for so many of us growing up, to me, swimming and track and field are the epitome of the Olympics, because it truly is the biggest deal in those sports to win that gold medal. Take us through that, what it meant to you, what it meant to your family. And I'm sure you just kind of had to pinch yourself to think, is this real? Is this really me?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the first day of the U.S. Olympic trials, my two teammates and good friends, Chase Kalish and Jay Litherland, were the two qualifiers for the 400 IM. And so being able to go alongside with those guys, having qualified a couple days after them, and then having so many of my teammates there was just so incredible. It's just, yeah, I mean, the whole time it's like you're seeing, the Williams sisters, or one day I'm eating lunch in the food hall, and I look over, and to my left is Rafa Nadal just eating, a chicken wing, and so it's just incredible. We got to meet all the U.S. basketball. The night we won gold, actually, the whole U.S. basketball team was there. So I come over, and Draymond Green's giving me a huge hug, and I'm like, this is just the craziest thing, So not a lot of countries have that. The U.S. Becomes like this really cool team, and that sort of goes beyond sports, right? You've got basketball players cheering for swimmers, and vice versa. And so that's just like sort of the embodiment of what the USA is to me. And that was just really something special. And then something else that I thought was really cool was that if the if UGA was a hypothetical nation in the Olympics, they would have been 17th in the gold medal count. As a country alone. So that really speaks to the University of Georgia, and a lot of those medals were coming from swimming. And I think that's just such a cool statistic, and it shows how good of a coaching staff we have, and such a good team we have.
Spot on there. In Rio, I worked basketball for the Olympics in 2012 in London. I got to cover swimming, and one of the things I was so proud of, again, going back to Jack and the legacy, we had swimmers that represented 7 different nations. And so I've asked Jack before, but when he's coaching the national teams, like, all right, you got a gator on this relay team, but you got a bulldog swimming for another country.
Yeah.
Where do the true loyalties lie there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Jack's going to be happy if his swimmers do well, regardless of what nation that's coming from. But, I mean, you can't help but be happy for him. Right now we've got an Egyptian, we've got plenty of people from Canada. It's a truly international team, and that's going to happen. We've just recruited from all different nations, and that's something else that really is special about our team, and it's so much fun. I think we took a big team picture, a Georgia picture, down there in Rio. I'll have to dig it up, but I mean, it was so cool how many of us were there and how many countries we represented.
Gunnar, let's talk about your family a little bit and who some of your biggest inspirations were growing up.
Yeah. So I have 2 sisters. Both of them swam. My older sister swam at Berry College up in Rome, and then my little sister swam at LSU. So I was luckily able to cheer on Joe Burrow and the Tigers this year. I had a little bit of an affiliation, so I cheated a little bit there. But, I mean, I guess my swim coach was such an inspiration to me. He passed on just a few years ago. And so having that sort of in the back of my mind every day when I'm training, that I'm doing it for him is just sort of motivated me and driven me to push myself every single day, because he was tough on me. He pushed me. So I sort of use that to my advantage now to push myself.
Gunnar, you've been a tremendous influence in the community, what you've done in Athens and throughout the Bulldog Nation. I know so many young fans look up to you as well. For young swimmers, for young athletes, for young students out there, what's your best advice for them moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think this reigns true in any sport. It's got to be fun. If you're not having fun and enjoying it, you're not going to swim fast, or you're not going to compete at the highest level of whatever sport you're in. And so I was always the kid who was messing around on the deck behind the blocks before I started my race, and sort of might have annoyed some kids sometimes, but I was having fun, and I think that's so important. That's really when what you talked about with burnout comes into play, is when you take yourself too seriously. And if you learn why it is that you love swimming laps and going back and forth staring at a black line at the bottom of the pool, because it can be so tedious, and it's the sport can be tough. But if you really enjoy your teammates and think of them as friends, and just if you find what makes it happy for you, that's when you're going to compete at the highest level. And that's, I think, incredibly important, or at least it has been for me.
Even for Olympic champions and All-Americans, the first few times you did the backstroke, and even though you had the rope up there, you still kind of worried about hitting your head on the side?
Yeah, of course. I actually have a scar right here. Still a D1 collegiate athlete, but my freshman year, I slammed into the wall and had to go get my eyebrow glued together. But Jack made sure that I was at practice that afternoon. I didn't even get to skip a workout. I was like, maybe I'll get a day out of this at least, but I didn't get any workouts off.
Well, Jack, and especially now that you've graduated, he could share a few more of his stories there, including the fact that he used to win ice cream eating competitions. What's your favorite Jack Bauer story?
Yeah, I know. Once you graduate, it's like all through college, he's like, I'll tell you once you graduate, all these stories. And now it's like a plethora of just all these different things. So it's been pretty cool. Jack and I are so close, and he's just such a special guy. I think one of my favorite things is just, he always talks about how he could jump up and grab the basketball rim. And at first when he told me, I think he said he was about 35, but every time he tells me it again, I think the age keeps getting a little higher every time. So now he's up to about 47. He's like, I could grab rim till I was 47. I don't know what the real age is, but he's a pretty athletic guy. I could see 40 maybe.
Gunnar, one of the most amazing things, when you were swimming, I got to do some TV broadcast here, and when we were swimming against Florida in particular and Texas in particular, what's really amazing, and I'm sure for the athletes this helps prep you, when we're swimming against Florida, I mean, you might finish second in that race and be third best in the world, and certainly you get to the SEC championships and the NCAA championships. So swimming for Georgia, the schedule we face in the SEC and what we do at the conference and national level, I can't imagine there's any better preparation for international competition.
No, definitely not. SECs is definitely the fastest conference meet in the country, and it's very similar on the international level. The U.S. Olympic trials at some times are faster than the Olympics. If you say maybe like the 200 butterfly with Michael Phelps, the top 3 U.S. guys may actually be able to end up getting the top 3 places at the Olympics. However, we can only take 2 people. So that third guy doesn't get to go to the Olympics, but he's still the third fastest in the world. So like you said, I mean, it is just intense competition. We're always pushing each other every single day. In 2017, Chase Kalish, Jay Litherland, and myself had a similar occurrence. We were 1, 2, 3 in the nation in the 400 IM. I was third, so I didn't get to go to Worlds, and those guys did. But, I was happy, if anybody were to go, I was happy it was my 2 teammates. But, I mean, that just speaks on the U.S.'s, level that it's such a powerhouse. But then, even more so, all 3 of those guys were Bulldogs. So, it's just such a powerhouse. And, you've got to fight your teammates sometimes, but we're all still best friends. So it's okay. We're rooting for each other. But like I said, if I wouldn't want anyone else to be doing it but my teammates.
And got another thing too about swimming, a tenth of a second is the equivalent to about 2 touchdowns there. When you've got to be so precise in a tenth of a second, 100th of a second can make all the difference. I would imagine that takes some mental strength as well, not to have that drive you nutty.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, you see people with like 2-inch fingernails before races because they think, they're going to have more catch or get a little bit more reach on the end. But at the end of the day, races are won between a couple hundredths of a second, and that's just the nature of the sport. And that's just, you've got to be better than the guy or gal next to you. So that's just how it is.
Gunnar, before we let you go, what's next for you? Obviously, the Olympics in 2021 in Tokyo would be the dream. So with that and beyond, what are you looking forward to?
Looking forward to that. Hopefully next year. We've got this thing called the International Swimming League coming up this fall. We'll be out in Gold Coast, Australia, training for about 5 weeks, and then we'll have some meets out there, and we'll have hopefully a playoffs and finals somewhere else. So getting to travel. Hopefully everyone stays safe and healthy, but I think it should work out. And I really think that'll be a great tune-up for the Olympics. And we'll have almost every single dog that's doing it is on the same International Swimming League team. So then again, we'll have a great time out there. And I'm just looking forward to a good year of training, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
And Gunnar, I will assure you, but between you, me, and our producer today, Greg Poole, you still look the best in a Speedo out of the three of us.
Appreciate that.
Gunnar, I appreciate the time, my friend. It flew by. I hope you'll come back and do it with us again. So proud of you for all your accomplishments. There are so many, but a 20-time All-American and Olympic gold medalist. And I can tell all the Georgia fans watching this here, you're an even better guy than you are a great athlete. So thank you very much, Gunnar. We really appreciate the time.
Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate the kind words. Thank you all for having me.
All right. He is the great Gunnar Bentz. Thanks to our buddy Greg Poole. I'm Jeff Dantzler. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time, one-on-one, right here on Bulldog Illustrated.